meeting.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Dave Fullerson in the Nevada Emergency Operations Center. It's 13:03 hours. We're still waiting for a couple of members to get us quorum. So if everyone just hangs on a second as we continue to go. If anybody knows of anybody that's on the committee that's not, or the council that's not here, please call them and see if we can get them to join for us. Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Dave Fullerson. It's 1:05. Looks like we got 5 members. We're just waiting for 2 more so we can start. So far we have Harriet, Jackie, Tanya, Ross, and Dwayne as members of the council that's on. And we're just waiting for 2 more council members to appear. If you know of any of those folks, please contact them. So that way we can have a quorum when we have a meeting. Thank you. Okay, Dave Fullerson again. We got 6 people now with Ken on. We just need 1 more to have quorum so we have the meeting. If we don't have quorum, we can't hold the meeting. So we're almost there. There's 1 more.
Yeah.
Afternoon, everyone. Dave Fogerson again. It's 1:11. We're going to give it till 1:15 to see if we can get 7 people for the quorum. We do have 6. We have 1 that might be coming, so we'll see how that works out. But we'll go till 1:15 and see if we can get everybody. If not, we'll have to reschedule the meeting. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's 1:13, and it looks like we just got our 7th member of the council on, so we can proceed with the meeting. So with that, we'll go and actually officially start. Now we have what looks like an unofficial quorum. So I would like to go to item number 1 on the agenda, call to order and do a roll call at 13 hours, and ask the admin assistant to call the roll for us.
Harriet Parker.
Present.
Marla Stanton. Marian Perez. Alfreda Jake. Ross Rivera.
Here.
Jackie Conway.
Here.
Wayne Masters Sr.
Here.
Don Pelt. Tanya Reynolds.
Thank you. Here, present.
Sukaki Charlie. Tashina Jim.
Present.
Ken Coiner.
Present.
Dave Fogerson.
Present.
Samantha Laddick. I see Samantha's here. There's.
I'm here.
Thanks.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You have quorum.
Awesome, thank you. I'd like to move to item number 2 on the agenda, which is public comment. This is discussion only. No action may be taken upon a matter raised on this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Public comment may be limited to 3 minutes per person, discretion of the co-chairs. Comment will not be restricted based upon viewpoint. If you're calling in by the number and not by Zoom, make sure you hit *6 to unmute yourself and *6 to mute yourself when you're completed. So again, *6 to unmute, *6 to mute. If you're following us along on YouTube and want to view public comment, we know the YouTube stream is about 60-90 seconds behind us. And so we'll give a little bit of time to make sure that we can get caught up with that. So with that, I'll open up to public comment. Is there any public comment here in the room in Carson City? Okay, seeing no public comment here in the room in Carson City. How about on the Zoom platform? Is there any public comment from anybody on Zoom? And if you're calling in, it is *6 to unmute yourself. Is there any public comment from the telephone? And Shireen, did we receive any written public comment for this meeting?
No, we did not.
Okay. We'll move to item number 3 on the agenda. I'll close public comment. There is going to be a second chance into the meeting for additional public comment. Number 3 is approval of minutes. This is for discussion, possible action. NTECC will review and discuss the minutes of December 13th, 2021 NTECC meeting, determine whether to approve the meeting minutes. Those were provided to you in your package, and hopefully they were correct, but if there's any changes to be made, please let us know, and if not, we'll take a motion to accept. Ross, it sure looks like you want to give a motion to accept the minutes.
Yeah, I make that motion to accept the minutes as written.
And Harriet, it really looks like you want to second that motion.
Yes, I will second that. Sorry, I was looking at something.
Any discussion on the motion by Ross and second by Harriet? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the approving the minutes, say yes.
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 Any opposed, say
Yes.
no.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries, and it looks like we just added Don Peltz, and we now have 8 council members. So we'll move to item number 4. This is National Weather Service weather outlook for Nevada. Discussion only. We have the Honorable Chris Malcolm, the weather coordinating meteorologist for the National Weather Service in Northern Nevada, with us. And he's going to provide us a little outlook on the upcoming spring and summer season in Nevada. Chris.
Hey, thanks, Dave. You guys can hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Okay, I'm actually on the road on a personal trip, so hopefully any background noise is minimal at this rate. So I know I sent the slides as a PDF ahead of time. Were you going to display those, or should I display what I have from here?
If you can display, we'll let you share your screen.
Okay, let me try that here. Let's see here. We'll do the screen. And screen broadcast, start the broadcast. 2, 1, and it is in theory broadcasting what is ever on my screen now. So let me go to the slides here. So are you seeing my title slide with me giving an impromptu weather briefing on it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Very good. Yes. It was a busy day at the weather office that day. So what I'm going to do here is just a really quick 5-minute summary of what we see for the spring and summer coming up. Obviously, this winter across much of Nevada has been just one of extremes. We had October and December, some of the wettest months that we've seen on record across the state, especially across the northern half of the state. Historically dry in January and February, just amazing. I've been out in Nevada in this job in about 14 years now. And it's just amazing how quickly the storm track just shut down. I have not seen anything of that magnitude. We have dry periods for 3 weeks here and there during the winter, even during really busy winters. But man, it was amazing how quickly that dried out. Don't really have an explanation for that. Is that a sign of things to come in coming years, or is that climate change, or is that possible? But I don't really have any thorough analysis on why that happens. So time is running out for winter. So what does spring and summer have in store for us? So the spring outlook here, this is from the Climate Prediction Center. This is looking at March, April, and May, all lumped together. So all 3 months together. When you're looking many months in advance, you kind of have to look at the 30,000 foot view, the really big picture, any screaming signals, big trends, things like that. And then we also lump things generally into 3-month periods. So right now for the spring season across northern Nevada, really any scenario is on the table in terms of temperatures and precipitation. You can kind of see that by the pie charts there, that we could go back to being kind of active, cool and wet, for example, but we could equally also stay warm and dry as we head into the spring for northern Nevada. Now, as you head south in the state towards Las Vegas, that is where the pie chart gets a little bit bigger, thicker slice, if you will, for the drier than normal outcome. We could still roll the dice to a wet spring or a normal spring, but the odds of a drier than normal spring are increased relative to the other 2 outcomes for southern Nevada. And same for temperatures, a little bit of a lean toward above normal there. So overall, the drought situation in Nevada, we thought things were really, really improving after December, but unfortunately the drought monitor, if you follow that, that is trending back to increasing drought severity indices. We do have severe drought across the whole state, and even exceptional drought in central parts of the state, really from the last 2 years. But unfortunately, based on how this winter has gone, even though we had those massive months in October and December, it was just not enough to really keep us going in the face of that very dry January, February, and honestly, even March at this point is probably going to go down as below average. Now, we go into summertime. This is where the eastern and southern parts of Nevada actually really do depend a lot more on precipitation during the summer monsoon than say the northern and western parts of Nevada, which rely more heavily on wintertime precipitation for the overall picture of the hydrologic health of the environment. So what we're seeing here for summer is across the north part of the state is a lean toward drier than normal conditions and a pretty heavy favorite toward above normal temperatures. So that will have ramifications for fire season, evapotranspiration, dryness, and things like that with a heavy favorite of above normal temperatures there. Now, across the central and southern parts of the state, one thing you notice is the equal chances that white zone is not just for loading and unloading of passengers only. It also means that you could have any scenario come up across the southern part of the state. So it does open the door to at least a typical or potentially even a busy monsoon thunderstorm season. So potentially that could be good news from a water standpoint. We do get those summer storms and some water coming out of them, but of course that can also mean flash flooding and fire starts from lightning. So there's good scenarios, bad scenarios. Really anything's on the table at this point for the summer. But that heat signal there, that's an impressive one to see many months in advance. So I think we're definitely heavily loaded toward a warmer than normal summer coming up. Now, this next slide is showing you the contact points for the NWS in Nevada. We have 3 forecast offices. In case you're not familiar with our jurisdictional boundaries, Reno, Elko, and Las Vegas. And those blue outlines indicate kind of the rough outlines of the forecast areas of responsibility. Las Vegas actually has the second largest forecast area in the lower 48 states, if you include parts of Arizona and California that they also cover. This is convenient. If you're familiar with the NDOT districts in Nevada, the Weather Service jurisdictional boundaries actually kind of mimic the NDOT districts as well. But there's some contacts there, including myself and Tim Bardsley, who's our hydrologist, who actually does drought, water supply, flood alerting, really anything water related. Tim's your contact across the entire state. He also dialogues with the other NWS offices in Nevada. So feel free to reach out to Tim on any hydrologic expertise. I always say when it's in the air, it's my problem, but as soon as it hits the ground, it's Tim's problem. So there's my contact info there. And then Elko and Las Vegas, you see our contacts. Those phone numbers there, which were in the slides that were distributed to the meeting attendees, those are non-public numbers, but you all as emergency management professionals, you're welcome to contact us 24/7 for any information. I'll finish up here with, you all know the Weather Service. We're the ones that issue the severe thunderstorm warnings that interrupt your favorite program, or the weather radio that goes off with that obnoxious noise. But we also do a lot more for the emergency management community that you may or may not be aware of. Of course, we all do briefing emails and webinars ahead of major storm events. If you are interested in signing up for those briefing emails, contact these contacts here at the NWS offices in Nevada. That's in that PDF that was sent out. We also do spot weather briefings, not just for wildfires. We can do those for large public events. So there's an emergency management presence and there's a weather concern. We can do a targeted one pager briefing, do a phone call, whatever you need. We can definitely provide it. Also for hazmat and search and rescue as well. We do provide on-site support during really big events, major events or storms. NWS in Las Vegas does a lot of those with a lot of the big festivals that come into the city each year. But we can also provide that during major flood events and stuff. And we typically potentially could staff like the state EOC or say, for example, where I'm at, the Washoe County EOC. And then that way the weather information can get distributed to all of our public safety partners fairly effectively. We also participate in exercises. So if you all do an exercise and want a weather scenario or want a meteorologist to participate, please reach out to us. We love to help with those and we love to play in the exercises. Preparedness activities, if you've got a weather preparedness topic you would want maybe us to do a presentation onto your community, or to just be involved in and maybe provide some guidance of okay, yeah, here's what we think the threats are, things like that. We can definitely provide data, whatever you might need. And then last but not least, those phone numbers that I mentioned in the previous slide, we are subject matter experts 24/7. So if you ever have a weather question about our forecast, even if it's 2 a.m, give our forecast offices a call. They will help you out. Usually if it's 2 a.m, it's the school districts calling, but we're certainly happy to dialogue with anybody at that time of day. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, head back to the Zoom app here, and that's what I got. So I appreciate your attention. Any questions?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, and thanks for being such a wonderful partner with us. Any questions? And because Chris is replicated in Eastern Nevada and Southern Nevada. just different. He looks different in those other communities.
Just slightly different. Yeah, just a little different. Yeah. The Elko office is transitioning people that basically is my counterpart there. So we don't have a new name yet. And in Las Vegas, it's Dan Berg. So
I highly encourage you guys to reach out and work with your local partners. Make sure you're on an email distribution list, because all 3 of those weather service offices do tell us, in advance of storms. So if you need that contact list and be added to it, just let the NTECC reps know and we can add you to that list. They provide phenomenal advice and sometimes crying on shoulders. I called that number at 2 o'clock in the morning and asked about flooding when I was a Douglas County emergency manager, and had quite the lovely crying phone call to find out what was going to happen. So they're good people. They're here to really help.
Absolutely. Anytime. So thanks again for the invitation to speak.
Thank you. See no questions, we'll close that agenda item and let Chris go back on his vacation. Thanks, Chris.
No worries. Anytime. You all take care.
And we'll move to item number 5 on the agenda. This is the NTECC logo review, discussion, possible action. And I'm going to turn this over to the co-chair, Harriet Parker, to discuss and review the development of an appropriate logo to represent NTECC.
Thank you, sir. I was just reviewing them. I forgot to mention, I also have Lieutenant Dawkins here with me. That's why I'm wearing my mask. So we were just kind of looking at them. I think they did such a great job, and it's so nice to have some logos to look at. I know this is something that we really wanted to do. I think they did a phenomenal job. I'm really excited about it. I do remember that I was part of an email stream where they were making a few changes to it. I don't see the changes on what I'm looking at, so I don't know if they were able to get those sent out in time for the meeting. Does anyone know?
Go ahead.
Okay, now you can.
Yes, Sarah is going to be making those edits tonight. We had only made 2 edits to the original draft that she presented this week. We absolutely love what she had created for us. The only edits that we were looking to play with is switching the EMS logo to the Department of Human Health and Services logo, being that they are one of our funders for the NTECC program. And we felt that was just more appropriate because we ourselves are not first responders. We are not EMS. So that'll just be switched to the HHS logo. And then also I have suggested the border where the texts are of the 4 nations names to be darkened. Just the border to be darkened to give it more of like a bolder look and enclosure type of look. But that's all the edits that are coming. I believe what we have now is a great reflection of what we would be adopting. And I would like us to go ahead and approve this logo that we see here today it's not going to be much different than what edits are coming in for. So if you guys agree with the idea of switching the EMS logo to the Department of Human Health and Services logo, that's pretty much it, really. The rest is just aesthetic, the border. So as long as that's all in agreement across the board, I think we have our logo.
I agree. Does anyone have any comments? Any other tribes have any other comments to bring up?
This is Jackie Conway with the Fallon Tribe.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, and the logo looks good. Just my only question when I was looking at all the names, I understand, Nui's Shoshone, but I didn't see Numa on there, and I was talking with some of the our cultural department and some of our just people here. We were just discussing, and we didn't know if, there's different dialects and everything, but like our tribe is Numa. I just didn't see Numa up there. I don't know if anyone else had any other thoughts, and we were just kind of going over, you know, the Washoe tribe, because we have different tribal members from different tribes working here also, so we were just kind of going over the names. But I don't know if
Yeah,
new
absolutely.
could be added.
Yeah, this is Danny. I was kind of looking at the same thing also. I know the dialect up there for Numa, you know, is right. And I do believe the Nuwa is a Southern Paiute, right?
That is
And-
West Shoshone.
Yeah, and then I was kind of in question also with the Washoe interpretation there for the correct spelling for the Washoe tribe.
Looking back, we believe that this is the list that they have been adopting. Do we have any Washoe representatives on the call today?
This is Ken from Washoe Tribe, but I would have to run it through our cultural department to make sure that's correct. But I believe it is, but I'll double check.
Yeah, so absolutely. So that would just be a very simple edit if that needed to be done. Again, I don't see a reason for us to have to table this particular item as long as we can get general consensus agreement on the design. Very minor edits like that, if we can just narrow down right now, we can get that done. I believe what this spelling of Washoe is what they would have liked, but we could always edit that very easily. We did our best. I myself am not Paiute, so sorry, I am Western Shoshone. So we had our representation for this input from Crystal, who said that the Nuwu and the Numu was probably the best way to represent the Paiute nations of Nevada, just very general, north versus south. I see Numu may be close enough to Numa if anybody feels that Numa may be a better written pronunciation for the Numu, as long as everyone agrees that it's not dismissing anyone. Pronunciation often bleeds into each other. So I'm thinking maybe that might be a better way to represent both Numu and Numa, just using Numa, since Nuwu is down there to the left bottom. And a lot of our Numic languages, the W's and the M's are very interchangeable. As you guys hear, no one, you know. So whatever you guys feel about that, I think we can get this. As you see, there's only four places in the border for us to place any sort of text. And we were trying to narrow it down to 4 major nations to be represented in this, hoping that it encompasses just about everyone we possibly could. If you guys know anything else otherwise, please let us know.
Director Montoos, I think you had your hand up first, and then we'll go to Crystal.
Thank you very much. I don't mind telling the group, I'm 55, and I only remember once in the history of my life that all of our tribal groups agreed on how to identify themselves. I do happen to have a copy of the history of the people. Each of the respective tribes, the bands went through ITCN and they put together a comprehensive history of them. And it was copyrighted in '76, but I'm happy to share those spellings with the group. But as you all have alluded to, it's possible that maybe some of our tribal nations still want a little zhuzh.
Crystal, you got your hand up too?
Yeah, so just to go over this logo a little bit, I honestly, I don't care about the spelling, but I want to clarify about the Washoe. That's what they use on their website. So that's what we went off of. I know there are other places that have different spellings of it. And of course, their people have different spellings and even different names that they use for themselves. But this is what we used off of their website. So we used the diamond shaped logo to kind of represent the all hazards approach. But instead of using the all hazards inside, we used the 4 colors, the sacred colors of the medicine wheel, and just put it in the diamond. Jay is correct about the public health symbol. And the only reason why we left NDM and the public health symbol is because they are the 2 that are comprehensive of the NTECC program, the emergency management and the public health side. So that's just that. And then the 4 feathers represent the 4 major bands of tribes here, ancestral to Nevada. So it's the Northern Paiute, Southern Paiute, Western Shoshone, and the Washoe tribe. So that's just kind of going over this logo and what it means, how it's interpreted, according to, you know, the staff that was involved with this. But however you guys want to spell the names is up to you as a group. I don't want to dig too deep into this. We've been dealing with this for the last 2 years. We kind of want to get it finalized. Like Jane said, Sarah will be working on some of the minor changes coming, but this is what she was able to pull together based off our conversation last week, last minute to get this in time for the meeting. So just wanted to clarify a little bit more on that and describe what this overall symbol represented for the group.
Thanks, Crystal. I'll turn it back over to Harriet since I forgot I gave her this agenda item and I kind of took it from her. So let me give it back to Harriet.
No, I agree. I was trying to, I have a map of Nevada with all the tribes, and I thought it said Numu on it. But I agree. Whichever spelling best represents that nation, I agree. I'm in Yup'ik, and we have different dialects of spellings in our culture also. And so I understand making sure, you know, because we have like an umbrella of what we're called as a nation. So I completely understand whatever is the best way to represent that nation. I love the story behind it. I'm so glad, Crystal, that you mentioned that. I think that was great. I knew there were 4 feathers, but it didn't dawn on me that it represented the 4 nations. I do like this logo that's showing right now over the one with the dots in between, only because I think the ones with the dots just is a little too much. I liked a little bit more simpler without the dots, but I mean, otherwise I think it looks fantastic. So I'm interested in what everyone else thinks. Is there any other comments to bring up on it?
Are we live here?
Yes.
Yeah, just Daniel. Thank you, Crystal, for the interpretation. Looks great. Thanks all you that worked on it.
So everyone listening out there, to just get this Numu, and Numa underway. Paiute is essentially being represented twice on this logo. So if we can narrow it down to 2 major branches, like north versus south, any of our Paiute partners on here, do you feel that this is representing north and south pretty well? Or should we switch the Numu to Numa?
This is Jackie Conway. Thank you, Crystal, for explaining that. And someone from the tribe did just call me and they explained Numu is the best representation over Numa. Thank you.
And so does Nuwu come from the south? Is that a southern Paiute pronunciation, Nuwu?
That is correct. That's we actually, one of our businesses is named Nuwu.
Okay, awesome. Well, then I think we have it then. Numu to represent the northern Paiute, Nuwu to represent southern Paiute, NUWA to represent the Western Shoshone, and the Washoe to represent the Washoe tribe of Nevada and California.
Crystal, I still see your hand is up. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? Or were your comments?
No, that was it, Harriet. I forgot to undo it. Sorry.
No problem. So it's my understanding that we're going to keep it like this. However, we're going to change the bottom logo from an EMS logo to a more of a medical logo, the HHS logo. And then we're going to darken the border where the nations are listed just a little bit. Is that correct? Those are the major changes that we're looking at?
Yep, those are still the only two edits that we are still consensus on. Yeah.
So do we want to go ahead and make a motion to approve this pending with those changes in mind? Can someone make a motion for that?
This is Ross Rivera. I'll make that motion to accept this logo with the changes as we've discussed.
And this is Ken from Washoe. I'll second that.
And let you know.
Perfect. Thank you both so much. All those approve, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Looks like the motion carries. So we will adopt this logo as mentioned with the couple changes that were brought up. So yay, I'm so excited because like Crystal said, this is a long time coming and it's so nice to finally have something that represents us. So thank you for everyone who worked on it. Miss Sarah, I don't think she's on this call, but please extend thanks to her. And I appreciate Jay and Crystal, everyone who worked on it, anyone I didn't mention by name, but it looks great. Thank you so much. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Chief Ogerson.
And actually, ma'am, you're doing such a good job. You want to keep running the meeting?
Yes, sir, I could do that. So we're going to move on to agenda item number 6, an update from the Intertribal Council of Nevada, ITCN. This is for discussion only. Cliff Banuelos, Mr. Banuelos will provide the NTECC with an update of ITCN activities related to the support of tribal emergency management and health clinics. Mr. Banuelos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Harriet. For the record, Clifford Banuelos, Intertribal Council of Nevada. So I was reading the minutes from the previous meeting. I just wanted to give an update on the Telecommunications Information Administration, NTIA, Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program. So our application is under review. NTIA did get back to us, and we need to provide more information to them by March 24th. And so ITCN Executive Director Quintana has been meeting with tribal councils for the 11 Nevada tribes that are in the application to get the updated information for the application package. And so just for a point of reference, we filed a grant application on behalf of 11 tribes that are part of our consortia. The work plan and budget will focus on broadband infrastructure deployment, and we are seeking $59,307,402. So it is a pretty big grant. The tribes are the Washoe tribe and its 4 bands, the Yerington Paiute tribe, the Lovelock Paiute tribe, the Yamba Shoshone tribe, the Summit Lake Paiute tribe, the Oco Band of the Timok tribe of Western Shoshone, and the Timbishaw Shoshone tribe. And then, so when we get an update on that, I'll communicate to NDM because this has a lot to do with the communications issues we had during COVID. And we try to do our best to get it out there. A lot of other tribes went individually with their own individual applications for NTIA. If, again, you're interested, please communicate to Desiree Quintana, Executive Director of ITCN. But right now, it's just under review. And then just in addition, my program is coordinating with Nevada Division of Environmental Protection, Bureau of Corrective Action on an updated map and contact list for chemical spill emergencies. So I've been working with their GIS team and the Bureau of Corrective Action on that. I think we're pretty close to making sure that we have like a redundant map with like 3 or 4 contacts in case there's a chemical spill, not just on or near tribal land, but also near historic lands of tribes in Nevada. And that's my update. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for Mr. Banuelos? Hearing none, let's move on to agenda item number 7. This is an update on tribal health preparedness efforts. This is for discussion only. By Melinda Southern, Public Health Preparedness Program Manager. Dr. Southern will update the NTECC on the Division of Public and Behavioral Health's tribal health preparedness efforts surrounding the COVID-19 response and recovery. Dr. Southern, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Harriet. Hi, everybody. This is Melinda. I just wanted to quickly provide an update that we have been working with the Emergency Providers of Nevada. It's the consultant group that has been with us throughout the planning of crisis standards of care, the plan document, and then as well as implementing crisis standards of care recommendations in Nevada for the pandemic. So we've been in discussions about the potential end to the public health emergency and the emergency declaration in Nevada. Again, we do not have a time frame of when that end will be, but just being, prepared for when the end of the emergency declaration does come about, and ensuring that we have a good transition plan in place so that anybody who's been practicing outside of their scope. So I know that there are some nurses that have been practicing outside of scope as authorized in Emergency Directive 11 and Crisis Standards of Care. So when that goes away, obviously they won't be able to do that anymore. But we just wanted to get the word out to everybody and just start having those conversations. It might not affect every aspect, but just being prepared, I guess. So that's the main thing. Let's see, I don't have any other major updates. We're just continuing to support the State Emergency Operations Center and the PPE resource requests. So been moving those along. We also do have the ACON FlowFlex tests. So those tests are the at-home tests, and those can be requested through a resource request form through the State Emergency Operations Center by that logistics NDEM email. And so we'd be happy to provide you with any tests that you need. We also are getting another order together for the Binax Now tests. Those are coming back online. So a quick reminder though, with the Binax Now, you have to have that lovely CLIA waiver in place. So I don't know how many of you are using those, but we are looking to get some more of those tests. And then I think that's about it for my update. So just pending any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Southern. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Southern? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to agenda item number 8. This is updates from the DEM, HS, NTECC staff. This is for discussion only. Josie Burnett and Jay Martin. Ms. Burnett and Mr. Martin will be providing NTECC with updates on the following: tribal PPE care packages, community touring, interstate mutual aid system discussions, the communication boxes, and the monthly call coordination. I will let whoever's up first get us started. Thank you.
Okay, yes, this is Jay here, Jay Martin, NTECC coordinator. So yes, first on the agenda, we'd like to announce that we have PPE care packages prepared and ready to go right now for all of the major tribal communities. So we have 24 available, and that is for sorry, I don't have my list right now. So that is for all the 20 recognized tribes, with addition to the 4 separate Tomoke bands, Elko, South Fork, Battle Mountain, and Wells. They are also receiving care packages individually. Those are ready to go. They are located here in our Northern Nevada warehouse over near Reno on USA Parkway. These are our state appointed tribal PPEs that we've had in storage during the pandemic. And what's happening is we're trying to downsize. And so tribes, you are in no way obligated to take these care packages. The size of them right now, there's 2 sizes. There's a larger size and a smaller size. Larger size for the larger operating tribes, and then a smaller size for the smaller operating tribes, such as Yamba or one of the smaller Tomoke bands like Battle Mountain. We did not want to bombard anybody with this. As you know, as we learned through the pandemic, storage is a huge issue. And so if you can store these, if you can take these, we are asking you to do so. The size of them right now, the larger size is 2 pallets. Dimensions 4 cubed feet, 4x4 pallets is the size of them. So we'll be emailing out a list to everyone, notifying you guys of this with all the info on it as well. If you do plan to accept them, for the larger order, it's going to take perhaps a flatbed trailer to take the 2 pallets, or you can break the pallets and stuff them somehow into like a large size pickup truck, I would imagine. 4x4 cubic feet is not that much. However, when it's wrapped up as a pallet, it is. So however you guys can figure how to do that. We need to have all of these out. We would like to have all of these out by May, but the sooner the better. We are trying to downsize our warehousing storage, which is what this is all about. And this is depleting, the care package that we have in right now has depleted about 50 to 60% of our stores. So we still do have PPE available if any tribes or tribal partners, such as the clinics, need specific items that they'd like to order from us. Please go ahead and put those requests in as needed. There's still plenty of stuff available. In the care packages, it's very basic PPE. There's various hand sanitizers of various sizes. Looking into that, we believe they're all alcohol-based and not the benzopyrene, chlorine, whatever other chemical that people are not liking right now. I believe they're all alcohol-based, and about a quarter of the larger packages is those hand sanitizers. So it's hand sanitizers. There's alcohol wipes, surgical masks, N95 masks, face shields, a few thermometers, some gloves, a few coveralls. That's pretty much it. You know, very basic PPE. Of course, it's always it'd be wise to keep a stockpile hidden away in your communities for rainy day. So if you could take these, we would really appreciate it. It'd be really appreciate it if you could take these. We've had Washoe, who's already kind of thinking about taking maybe a second care package. So feel free to refuse any of these. However, if you can take them, please do. At this moment, we don't have any plans for distribution ourselves to take the packages to you guys. So we'll be getting in touch with everyone and coordinating this distribution for you guys to come pick it up yourselves. And then if it's impossible for you guys to make that journey and make that transportation, in the following month, we will try to figure out another plan and how we can get that to you. I realize smaller communities, that could be a barrier for you. So we will try to make that happen for you if this is what you want. So yeah, for now, if you have any concerns, you can bring it up. However, like I said, we'll be getting in touch with you later because that would be a longer discussion, and I'm trying to keep this meeting as short as possible. Item B on here, as many of you know, me and Josie are fairly new to NTECC, and we are trying to build a better consortium of our emergency managers amongst the tribal communities. So we are planning to be going and visiting all of your communities as soon as possible. We've already met with Washoe. Something that we want to offer in those visits is updating your guys' communication boxes. SIM cards need to be switched out in those communication boxes regularly. I don't know the exact schedule right now, but we have those ready for you guys to deliver and have them switched out now so that your boxes are active and ready to go. So that's a service that between me and Josie will be providing during those community visits. So again, we will be coordinating with you all on those tours. So we'll just discuss that with you at another time unless there's any pertinent concerns right now. And then also tied into that, me and Josie would like to offer the idea of adopting more of a informal monthly call instead of just these quarterly calls, which are much more business oriented and can be lengthy because there's so much business to take care of. We would like to be able to offer in these calls updates on anything going on. Also have building the consortium of all of our EMs to kind of work together and pool resources, see who has what. There's a lot of turnaround always within our tribal communities, but also here on the state side. Example, me and Josie are new. And so just maintaining all those relationships and building new ones would be a great way to strengthen our EM programs. And through these, we can also bring in any of our sector-specific expertise, such as planning and mitigation, grants, finance, all these different resources that we have both in-house and people that we know of, such as Dr. Hayes from CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency from the Homeland Security Agency, who is offering cybersecurity surveys of your guys' cyber infrastructures, just to make sure that you guys have the best protection against any sort of cyberbullying from foreign nations. This is something that we as a nation, and I am in full agreement with it, am trying to have a bigger focus on this year due to the Ukrainian-Russian conflicts going on right now. If any of you were in the cybersecurity briefings, Dr. Hayes talks about different sort of cyber attacks that occur and did occur in this particular conflict. And they do things that you wouldn't expect. It's like, why are you even coming after us? You're really just trying to create havoc. A lot of our tribes get hacked all the time from foreign hackers, whether it's for fun or whether they're looking for info, whatever the case. It does happen, but now everyone is trying to up their security just to trying to protect themselves. Some of our tribes, it may not be as necessary, but other tribes definitely are, especially those who perhaps have like their own clinics, such as Washoe tribe. We have to protect our patient information. And then also any tribes who utilize electronic forms of their personnel files, that's something that is very vulnerable to hacking. And once they get into those personnel files, they can go out and take credit cards in your name of all of your employees, things like that. But they also do funny things such as data swiping, or they'll get like back courses to just view all of your activity. And so it's just things like that that CISA is offering to evaluate for all of our tribes. And he'll be in our talks. So it'd be things like that that the monthly calls would bring forward to you guys. If you agree that a monthly call would be beneficial to everyone, I would propose probably the second Tuesdays of every month. How does that sound, anyone? Is there any opposition to like a second Tuesday?
Can't make a decision here because it's not
Oh.
an action item. So it's only
okay.
discussion. So you brought it up, so then we can now bring it back and you guys can then, hey, we're gonna do it on this date, see how that works.
All right, what are you guys' thoughts on any of those?
I see Miss Jake's hand is raised. Miss Jake, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I was just wondering maybe if we can have a, I guess the informal meeting with everybody there so we can get to meet everybody, because I know there's a lot of new faces in the native tribes. So maybe first meeting we can get is all of us, and so we can see who's who and start networking.
And we can work with the NTECC staff on that. One of the things we do have to be careful of is with the open meeting law, we have to be very cognizant of the fact that since we do have this group, we can't have a coordination meeting that has the same partners, because that's a violation of state law. And so what we can do is have informational gatherings and information listening sessions and the typical stuff like we do, just that we've done all through COVID. So just a matter of how we make it work right. You can't give advice to us to change anything unless it's here in the open meeting, but we can have discussions where we send out information and we can make this work very, very easily. It'd be even nicer if we can do it in an in-person setting or offer that at times. So that way we can make this work good.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it seems like everyone's in agreement for the need for a networking call to keep all of us together and updated on things. So we will be looking into that in the future. Again, me and Josie will be in contact with everyone for coordinating all of our various projects that are coming.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Martin?
Manager for the tribe, and I was
Him, or are there any other questions, Mr. Martin?
I have one more thing to add, Harriet, if there's nobody else. We are also right now in the process of coordinating some trainings for each of the tribes, which may be coordinated for regional or also community-based. We are thinking about coordinating some ICS 402 trainings for everyone, and as well as Stop the Bleed trainings. So those are some things in the works. Like I said, NTECC has a lot of projects that we have in mind right now that we are trying to develop right now and see what we can pull off. So please keep in contact with me and Josie so that you are up to date on all of these that are underway.
I appreciate that. Is Josie there? Does she have anything to bring to the table before we close this agenda item out?
I'm Josie Burnett. I'm here. Just going back to item B, just going to the community, there's discussion about the IMAS, Interstate Mutual Aid System. I do believe later on the agenda we have Eric Wilson, DM, talking more about IMAC, which is the Interstate Mutual Aid Committee. We're just presenting that to the tribes. There is that option to opt in to being part of IMAS. For the record, we do have 4 tribes that have put in their resolutions: Las Vegas, Pyramid Lake, Reno Sparks, and Yerington. And then as far as we know, I think we had 2 pending that were developing those resolutions. So just a reminder about that. But I just wanted to add that in there, really simply put, as a reminder. Thank you.
Ma'am, any questions for Josie?
Yeah, I do. To opt into the mutual aid system, it takes a resolution from the tribe just requesting that.
Yes. Yes, the tribe has to formulate a resolution to submit. That is correct.
Then submit it to whom?
To DEM. I'll probably circulate the information to you guys, that we have like a template, some links, some more information, just so we can help you guys.
Sure, I do. Just so some information to give the tribe to get that resolution.
Okay. Thank you.
Real quick, Ross, I am going to be in the area on Monday. If you would like to meet, do you have availability around 3 o'clock?
Yeah, I'll make so.
Oh, okay. Well, awesome. I will be around, and I would love to meet with you since I'll be in the area, and we could share any questions and things that you have, and that I could bring back to DEM.
So do you have a pickup truck?
I do. Unfortunately, it's on the last wire. I don't trust to drive it past Yamba. But I'll be in a different vehicle.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, let's close out agenda item number 8. Let's move on to agenda item number 9, which is an update from the Nevada Indian Commission. This is for discussion only by Stacy Montooth. Director Montooth will provide NTECC with an update of NIC activities related to the support of tribal emergency management and health clinics. And Director Montooth, I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much. Ms. Parker, I'd like to invite you to come run some of the Nevada Indian Commission meetings. You're doing an awesome job. So I really appreciate everybody's time today. I have 3 quick announcements, and I think you'll all agree that though you focus on emergency management, your profession involves having a hand in a little bit of everything. So keeping that in mind, and then also maybe my PIO background, I wanted to share a couple of announcements with you. First thing being that next week, actually a week from today, the Nevada Indian Commission will be a part of a group that is going to meet and formally sign a shared stewardship agreement. Now, this is for outdoor recreation. And again, if there's emergencies in outdoor recreation spaces, whether that's a powwow or, an outdoor athletic event, I know you all are involved. So I thought I'd bring this up. The agreement is going to focus on having strategic and partnerships that help serve as a model for multi-agencies and, interagency stakeholder partnerships. And I know that's what NTECC is all about. So heads up, that's coming down the pike next Wednesday. I believe it's going to be a formal ceremony, 10 somewhere out. I think it's in Washoe country. The other announcement I wanted to make, again, isn't at the core of your work, but it's definitely something that many of you deal with on a regular basis. The Nevada Indian Commission will be very involved with Governor Sisolak's Healthcare Provider Summit. Hopefully you got to save the date for that. Oh gosh, I don't have that in my notes. It's a little later here, and it's in April. I'll make sure and get you that specific date. But this is going to be a provider summit trying to bring all the partners in the state together. It will be in Southern Nevada. It's going to discuss affordable, comprehensive access to healthcare systems. And even though in Indian country, we lean so heavy on our tribal health centers, our tribal clinics, this will be an opportunity for anybody involved with healthcare to network and partner. So we're hoping that there'll be plenty of folks that we see on a regular basis in healthcare there. But as this group also is involved, and I wanted to make that announcement. The last thing I want to bring up is earlier this week, I was invited to participate in a roundtable. It was virtual. It was specific to legislation that was recently passed. But basically what we did was there was a discussion about the COVID pandemic response. It was put together by one of our senators, Senator Dante, and mostly included health experts. I share it with you because prior to the roundtable, I was asked to fill out an 11-question survey, everything from what has gone right when it comes to serving our communities during the pandemic. What should we improve on? What should we emphasize for the next emergency? I think most of you know, I don't speak for our tribal nations. I work as a conduit between our tribal nations and the governor's office. So it made me think that it really is helpful if we, I think Danny Thayer, you taught me they're called hot washes. I know that there was conversation a little bit earlier about the parameters, or I'm going to call them restrictions, that this group has with meeting. But I'd like to throw it out there that down the road, we probably need to have a comprehensive, robust conversation about what we need to focus on more, what we need to tweak. Unfortunately, to plan for the next emergency. So I'll leave it at that. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has, and appreciate your time today.
Director Montour, any questions?
The governor's healthcare provider workshop is April 19th.
Oh.
I forward that to Jay and Josie, so they'll get it out to the group.
Awesome. Thank you, Chief.
That's
okay. I'm going to hide in the background.
Thank you. Okay, let's close out agenda item number 9 and move on to agenda item number 10. This is an update from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Region 9. This is for discussion only. Crystal Harjo. Crystal will provide the NTECC with an overview of FEMA Region 9 all hazards activities and upcoming events. This will include training, tribal partner engagements, tribal consultation opportunities, and outreach activities at the regional and Nevada specific level. Ms. Harjo, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Harriet. Good afternoon, everyone. Crystal Harjo, the Nevada Tribal Liaison for Region 9. Just a couple of quick updates from our end. Been keeping pretty busy with steady state activities, as well as being deployed for COVID, which luckily, fortunately, has slowed down quite a bit in Nevada. Region-wise, first off, our Arizona Tribal Liaison has been selected, and that individual will be announcing their position soon. Once that is, we'll have an introductory to all of Region 9 for that individual. So good news there. So now our Region 9 partners, tribal liaisons, went from a party of 1 to a party of 4 within the last 2 years, which is really good. Dealing with 154 tribes, it still is not a whole lot of hands, but it's enough that we all can take a piece of that pie and work on it. So glad to have that person on board. Let's see, coming up, we're gonna have a regional strategy feedback meeting with headquarters. Right now, all the tribal liaisons and tribal fits across the nation are working on scheduling meetings and to go over the new national tribal strategies. So hopefully within the next week, we can get that information out because we are on a deadline for feedback from our tribes. So expect to have a meeting invite within the next week or two. We are currently planning and scheduling our Region 9 tribal partners meeting. That will be the 3rd week in August. Dates are not set right now. We are in the process of finalizing our contract, but it is going to be held here in Reno, Nevada. That is all. That is for all of our Region 9 tribes to come together and go over several topics, which we are currently working on right now. If anyone is interested in becoming a tribal EMI curriculum trainer, please reach out to me. There will be a Train the Trainer the first week in June in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Hopefully all 4 of Region 9's tribal liaisons will be in that class. The tribal liaison from Region 1, which is Gina Murata, she's looking forward to attending that as well. So if anyone misses her, come visit her and learn how to become a trainer of EMI's tribal curriculum. That one goes over tribal coup, tribal mitigation, leadership overview, as well as EM. It's like an EM overview. So if anyone's interested, please let me know. I'll get you in touch with our new liaison at EMI, which is Mary. And she'll be happy. She's looking to fill 18 seats. Not sure how many have been filled just yet, but please let me know. Let's see. We are working with Region 6 regarding our interagency recovery tribal toolkit. That's something that Region 9 IRC has been developing over the last several months, and Region 9 is interested in rolling that out there. So been working closely with their tribal fits and their tribal liaisons to see how it will fit in with them. So that's been a good progress. More to come on that one. Also, funeral assistant, COVID-19 funeral assistance, if anyone knows of any individuals who are in need of financial assistance for that, please reach out. To date, for Nevada, there have been 4,411 applicants with 2,681 have been awarded. So this has been an ongoing conversation, especially in the tribal community, in regards to who's eligible. Unfortunately, tribal nations themselves are not eligible for this funeral assistance, but tribal individuals are. So if you need any more information on that, I will be happy to send that out. There's no deadline on that. There's just the eligibility, which is, you have to have COVID-19 be listed on the death certificate. No financial assistance from anyone or any agency, et cetera, et cetera. So please feel free to reach out on that one. Been working with the NTECC staff on several projects, as well as some of the partnering agencies. Been doing initial notes for the Nevada revision of the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan. So once I put in initial notes, I'm going to pass the wand to NTECC and they can move forward with that. Last but not least, I know this is the next agenda item, but looking for any tribal presenters or participants for next year's NEPA. Once that agenda item comes up, I'll speak a little bit more on that. Pending any questions, that's pretty much all I have for now.
Thank you, Crystal. Are there any questions for Crystal?
Sorry. So I just looked down. I usually will see the bodies. Oh gosh.
All right, hearing no questions for Crystal. Last call. Okay, so we will close out agenda item number 10. Unfortunately, agenda item number 11, we have to table for this meeting. Hopefully we'll be able to get that one on the agenda for our next meeting. As we all know, something came up, and so we're going to move on to agenda item number 12. And this is feedback from the 2022 Nevada Preparedness Summit. This is for discussion only. Chief Fogerson, the NTECC will be briefed on the 2022 Nevada Preparedness Summit and the tribal leader engagement at the summit. Chief Fogerson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, ma'am. Dave Fogerson for the record. As everyone knows, we had the Nevada Preparedness Summit a couple weeks back. Nevada Preparedness Summit is sponsored 50% by the Nevada Emergency Preparedness Association, which we highly encourage you to be members of, because it's kind of the unofficial group that binds us together, and the other 50% through the Division of Emergency Management. The conference alludes back from the days when it was just emergency managers that could attend, to now we have 300 people that attended and 30 tribal leaders. It was a large group of tribal members and tribal leadership that was there. So we took the opportunity to have lunch with the tribal leaders and tribal members that were there both days, and kind of had an open forum to hear concerns, hear how things are going good, how things are going bad, and how we can improve. And one of the things we did hear very loud and clear from some of the tribal leaders that were in the room is that they want to be included on the email strings that we send to their tribal emergency managers. And so this last week, we did add majority of your tribal leaders that were all present there, or we added the tribal leaders to the various DEM situation report listservs. That way they're going to get the same information you get. Fantastic conversation to be had, and we're looking forward to next year actually hopefully having a tribal track, and that's where Crystal was going to talk about from the last one. But since we had a table that agenda, I'm going to kind of try to see if I can extend this tribal or this agenda item a little bit without getting yelled at for doing so. But next year we want to make it even better with that tribal engagement and have some special time between the tribal leaders, tribal emergency managers, tribal members, and the NTECC staff, the DEM staff, and then also start looking for tribal topics that can be done. And Crystal kind of got tapped on her shoulder and asked to kind of run that tribal leadership, tribal topics for next session. So next meeting, we'll definitely have Matt Williams on as the current president of the Nevada Emergency Preparedness Association to talk more about it. And Chris can talk more there, but at least to give you the heads up of where we're headed. But a great conversation to be had, even if the food in the box lunches was very awkward to eat sitting around the tables because the room was so big. So I want to thank you guys for getting out I can't remember a time where we had so many tribal leaders all in one emergency management conference, and it was a fantastic conversation we had. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Chief. I have to agree. I was so excited to see so much tribal participation. The first time I went, I think was in 2016 or 17. And I think I was one of maybe 3 tribal representatives. And to see so many there this time and tribal leaders, it was amazing. So I'm very happy that, and I was so great. It was so great to see people face to face and Jackie Conway, and to be able to talk to people and see Crystal again and meet Josie and Jay. Well, I didn't even get a chance to really chat with Jay, but it was really nice to get to see people. So really look forward to the next year's conference. Are there any questions for Chief Fogerson? Okay, hearing none, we will close out agenda item number 12 and we will move on to agenda item number 13. This is the National Tribal Emergency Management Council. Linda Zambrano, Executive Director. Ms. Zambrano is inviting all Nevada tribes to join NTECC. She will discuss their programs and activities, including grants received, available training and membership, as well as information on the next conference. And Director Zambrano has a PowerPoint. Are y'all able to help out with that? Can you, or do you have that, Linda?
I emailed that forward so that they could load it on their end.
You guys have it? We're able to share that?
One moment.
Yeah.
Is that it on the record?
Hold on. Can you guys see the screen?
Can you move to presentation mode? Oh.
No, it's just PDF.
Yeah.
I can see it.
All right, you're ready to go, Linda. I'll just move the slides manually.
And Linda, you're muted.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. I just wanted to start by saying thank you to everyone and to let you know how humbled and how honored that we are to be invited to be a part of this meeting today. I was able to join at about 1:15, and I've been listening along, and it's just amazing all of the work that you are all doing. So I'm so excited to have been able to be a part of the meeting and to witness some of this work that's being done. It's incredible. I also want to share with you that what I'm about to introduce is just one more tool in the toolbox. That's what we try to bring forth is it takes so many pieces and so many tools to bring forth effective response and recovery during disasters. And we just promote ourselves as being one more tool in the emergency management toolbox. And so we're not here to take over anything or replace anything, but to really be able to supplement anything that's going on out there. So with that, my name is Linda Zambrano. I'm the Executive Director of the Northwest Tribal Emergency Management Council and the National Tribal Emergency Management Council. And I've been in this position for 20 years now. We started a consortium of tribes for the purposes of promoting emergency management and homeland security here in the Pacific Northwest with Washington State, Oregon, Idaho, and then eventually Alaska. And our tribal nations came together to work specifically on emergency management issues. And so that's why it's so exciting to see Nevada and the tribes working so closely together. But with that, we can move into the next slide. And so 20 years ago, I was working with the Tulalip tribes. And what we learned back then is that shortly after the towers came down and the Department of Homeland Security was created, there were millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars that were being distributed through our counties. And it was all for planning and preparedness efforts for emergency management, including drafting comprehensive emergency management plans, drafting hazard mitigation plans, codes, laws, ordinances, all of the things that we needed to have in place to have formally recognized offices of emergency management. But what we learned very early on in the process is that the people that were receiving the invitations were emergency managers, and many of our tribes 20 years ago did not have emergency management programs.
So many of our tribes were missing out on a lot of those early funding opportunities. And so our 8 tribes got together and we started jointly creating grant applications, applying for funds to be able to build our emergency management programs. And from there, the story was born. The primary mission of our organization is to help facilitate the building of internal infrastructure and capacity within the federally recognized tribes. When we first got started, there were a lot of people that came to us and wanted to be consultants, and they wanted us to hire them to do our emergency management. But we felt that in the best interest of tribal sovereignty, we needed to have our own programs. And so that's why we focused so hard on creating our own internal infrastructure. Next slide, please. And so again, we started in Washington State in the furthest northwest corner. So for those of you that might be familiar with Washington, we were covering Whatcom, Skagit, Snohomish, Island, and San Juan counties. And we became what was formerly known back then as the Region 1 Tribal Homeland Security Subcommittee to the Region 1 Homeland Security that was organized under the state of Washington. Next slide. And over the course of time, there were tribes outside of our 5-county area that learned of the work that we were doing. And so we wanted to share that work with other tribes. And so we created what was called the Northwest Tribal Emergency Management Council. And that was our original chapter. And we brought all the tribes in Washington State together to work under the Northwest Tribal Emergency Management Council. Next slide. And so in 2008, the tribes learned that if we came together and created a nonprofit organization, not only would we still be entitled to and able to apply for a lot of the grants that we were accessing through our federal and state programs, but by formally incorporating and becoming a 501c3 nonprofit organization, it opened up another whole entire set of doors for us to be able to apply for grant funding at the national level. And so in 2008, we formally incorporated and we formally became the Northwest Tribal Emergency Management Council, providing services to Washington, Idaho, Oregon, and Alaska. But then in 2010, we were invited back to FEMA headquarters, and they were looking at all this work that was happening in the 4-state area and wanted to know if there was a way that we could roll that out and help tribes all across the entire United States. And so with that, the board of directors of the Northwest Tribal voted and created a standing committee for the National Tribal. We have 22 board members that currently serve on the National Tribal Emergency Management Board of Directors, and the NTMC was created. Next slide, please. And so again, we do have the board of directors. We have a charter, bylaws. All of our documentation can be found on the websites. And we have 2 websites. We have the NTEMC.org website, and we have the NWTEMC for our local chapter.org. We have more documentation on NWTMC because that's been around for 20 years, whereas the NTMC has only been around for the last 12. Next slide, please. We're also organized not just by the regions that we serve and then the individual tribal nations that we serve, but we've also put together committees in all of the different regions that work together on the individual emergency support functions. And so with that, I know everybody in this room is very familiar with the ESFs and the 15 different ESFs that we work with the most out here. But if we go to the next slide, I'm going to use one of those ESFs as a specific example of some of the work that we do. We've created our subcommittee under the Emergency Support Function 2 for communications, and we have provided ham radio training at all of our conferences and networked ham radio operators across the country in Indian country for the purposes of providing emergency communications during any disaster. And with that subcommittee, we ended up naming it the National Tribal Amateur Radio Association, NTERA. And so that's one of our committees, our subcommittees that's organized under our ESF2 committee. Next slide. And so that's the logo that the group came up with for operating the NTERA. And now every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we have a standing call that's open to all of the tribes across the country. And we're working on 3 primary projects under our NTERA program. And the first one being that we're working on a nationwide ham net so that our ham radio operators can sign in and check in with each other. And then the second one is that we're working on creating animated training, ham radio training videos with some professional animators that we plan on distributing to tribes and especially to our Alaska cadre, where it's really difficult for our Alaska youth to get ham radio training. And so we're working on these animation videos that will get distributed throughout Indian country for the purposes of promoting ham radio training. And then the third project that we're working on under NTERA is we've partnered with a number of universities, and our tribal youth are building these cube satellites that we're hoping to have launched into outer space that will then help to continue to support the ham radio operations that NTERA has been building over the last several years. Next slide, please. We've also signed an agreement with the United States Volunteer Joint Services Command, which is a large cadre of military volunteers. They're retired military people that volunteer their time. Primarily, their mission is boots on the graves, and they provide services for our fallen soldiers by providing honor guards and the 21 gun salutes and flags to our veteran families. Many times the military does not have enough personnel to provide these honors at the funerals. And so we have signed an MOU with the USV JSC, and we've created a tribal cadre. And this is actually one of our tribal youth that has actually been dispatched, and he's conducted quite a few of the funerals now, and also helps with the secondary mission of COVID-19 response at this time. Next slide. We really put a heavy emphasis on educating for future emergency management leaders. And some of the work that Harriet Parker and I have worked on together in the past is that we've looked at some of the education that's being provided in the realm of tribal emergency management in higher education. And what we learned 3 years ago at our conference in Green Bay, Wisconsin, is that currently there was no tribal emergency management curriculum in higher education anywhere in the United States. There were no certificated programs. There were no college degrees. There are in emergency management, but not in tribal emergency management specific. And what we were able to do in Green Bay at the conference was identify a number of areas where we feel that it's very important that there's certain curriculum that's added to the curriculum that already exists to help not only the tribal emergency manager, but non-tribal emergency managers understand tribal emergency management in a different light. And so we've been working with these universities to develop the curriculum, and most recently with Evergreen and Pierce College Homeland Security Emergency Management, we have been able to develop a program. It's a certificate for tribal emergency managers. Next slide, please. And so I'll skip through some of these slides. I'll just briefly explain them because I know that it's coming towards the end of the day. With that, some of the things that we do, we try to help fill the gap. We know that there's a lot of people that are out there in the state governments and the federal governments that will help the tribes develop their CEMPs and their hazard mitigation plans and the laws and the codes and the ordinances. But we're here to help those tribes that have not been able to acquire assistance. We have a whole cadre of our team that will be on the phone, do the Zoom calls, and provide templates for the tribes and even help them fill in their templates to get their plans in place, as well as their laws, codes, and ordinances. We also we worked with the University of Pittsburgh to also help tribal public health, and we developed an entire toolkit that's based on the law of public health to help a tribal nation stand up their public health departments. Next slide, please. We also really focus a lot on our tribal youth. This was one of our CERT programs. Just before COVID hit, we were able to graduate 65 of our tribal youth from the Lummi Nation in a large cert class that we provided for Lummi. The next slide, please. And we also provide a communication network for the tribes during any disaster. We've been activated quite a few times, and we've had our Emergency Operations Center active for the past 2 years working on the COVID-19 response. Next slide, please. So again, we focus our work on all of the different emergency support functions, but at least for this past 2 years under our public health, we've done an incredible amount of work under ESF 6 with mass care and casualty, ESF 8 with healthcare, and then interestingly enough, ESF 11, because we engaged heavily in the distribution of food and found ourselves working very closely with the USDA to deliver food, water, and supplies to the tribes across the country. And so with that, next slide. And I'm going to share a little bit some statistics with you here. For COVID-19, we partnered with our sister nonprofit. Her name is Farmer Frog. And so up there in the right-hand corner picture, there should be a picture of Sophia. And then that's my husband, Richard. Rick Zambrano was a tribal council member for the Snoqualmie tribe. And when COVID hit, he retired his position at Snoqualmie and felt that he really needed to come back to work for the National Tribal Emergency Management Council and really engage back in the emergency management work, really helping tribes all across the country. And so so he's in that picture in the upper right-hand corner. Next slide. So once COVID hit, we needed to find a quick way of being able to distribute food, water, and supplies across the country. And so we developed partnerships with Carlisle Transportation, with Tote Maritime. We've got 105 volunteer pilots that are helping us run food, water, and supplies from California to Alaska, all along the Pacific coast. And during this past 2 years, we were able to coordinate with more than 120 tribes throughout 35 states for the delivery of over 160 million pounds of food, water, and supplies. Next slide, please. We were also able to create some tribal public service announcements that were written in the traditional languages of the tribes. This one just happens to be a Lachute seed flyer that was put together for the purposes of COVID here in the Pacific Northwest. And we do a lot of work with our Alaska chapter and with our Yupik speaking family to create these types of announcements in Yupik. We're currently looking at translating a great deal of the CERT materials and some of the emergency management documentation, as well as the ICS trainings into Yupik as well for our Yupik Alaska family. Next slide, please. We've done a great deal of work with tribal critical infrastructure. I heard some people talking about it even this morning during the meeting here. What we've been able to do is create these tribal critical infrastructure profiles within the tribes themselves so that they're able to better address their hazards within. But what we also have noticed is that the majority of critical infrastructure is located on or within close proximity of many of our tribal nations. And so we've really been able to help the tribes in acquiring the grant funding that they need that's necessary for them to continue to provide protection for these areas in our country. Next slide, please. And these are some resources and publications that the National Tribal Emergency Management Council has created. And we've worked with some partners to create the Red Guide to Recovery, as well as the Native Family Disaster Preparedness Handbook. And next slide. And we host an annual conference, and we've done this for the last 20 years. We have always had a national conference until COVID hit. We have not met in the last 2 years. We hoped to meet in April of this year, 2022, but I just got word in the last couple of days that the cases are still running pretty high up in the Whatcom County area. So we are going to postpone it again. We just don't want to take any chances. It was only a month ago that our Tulalip tribes, with a population of about 4,500 tribal members, had reported 1,100 cases of COVID on the reservation. So we know that COVID is not completely gone, and we still want to be really careful with our tribal elders and our tribal emergency managers and first responders. So we're postponing the conference, but we will keep everybody informed as to when it will be rescheduled. And the next slide, please. And so very quickly, a recap, 3 best reasons to join our team at the NTMC is the first reason, first and foremost, is that when we first created our consortium, we were faced with so many consultants that wanted to come in and do so much work for us, and we weren't getting the grant money to fund it. And so we were finding it very difficult to get our emergency management program funded and be able to keep it sustainable. And so once we created the nonprofit, we made a commitment to our tribes that we have no membership fee. We believe that public safety and public health are a trust responsibility of the federal government, and therefore our tribes should not be paying for anything that has anything to do with emergency management at all. And so what we try to do for the tribes is provide all of our services free of charge, or help them find the grant money that will help them pay for sustainment of their programs and the creation of the documents that they need. And so next slide. We have also always, for 20 years, we have promoted ourselves as not being a response organization, because we're not here to take the place of FEMA or the state. We never want to do that. But what we have found in the past 2 years, and especially with COVID, is that with a large scale disaster like this, there just wasn't enough people to go around to be able to help every tribe. And so I think even we heard from Region 9 this morning that they went from 1 tribal liaison to 4 to handle over 150 tribes in California. And so we're facing the same problem in Region 10 with us having over 220 tribal nations and only having the 4 tribal liaisons. It's just not enough people to go around. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to tap into some of our most seasoned and most respected tribal emergency managers across the country to be able to provide some assistance during these big scale disasters. And we really found the infrastructure worked well during COVID, because we were able to move so much food, water, and supplies through the infrastructure that we've built and through the partnerships that we have with all of our tribal nations. And the next slide, please. And the last reason that we really feel that people should join the NTMC is because we're driven to provide efficient public service through partnerships. We believe that everybody belongs at the table during a disaster. And so we partner with our federal, our state, and our local partners. We really tap into our resources at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and FEMA. We're doing a lot of work with USDA and transportation right now. But every one of our federal and state agencies that we can work with and build partnerships with, we believe that's to the advantage of everyone. And so we really do promote building these teams and cadres of subject matter experts that can help our tribes get this important work done. And the next slide, please. We also found that we weren't able to just do it alone with our federal and state partners. And so we also turned to corporate America, and we were able to tap into Sourcewell, which is it's a municipal contracting agency. And what we were able to do was lock in contracts with them so that during disasters, we already had pre-negotiated contracting pricing with many of our vendors, including people like Staples. And there's over 250 companies and corporations that are in Sourcewell. It's also a sister nonprofit of ours. They work a lot like the GSA, whereas we're able to go in and buy much of our product at discounted pricing. And what we were able to do for our tribes was eliminate price gouging during disasters. And so that's how that relationship ever even came about to begin with. And once we created the relationship with them, Sourcewell has been a big sponsor of our conferences. And in some years, they've donated quite a bit to make sure that we're able to conduct our conferences for the tribes. And the next slide, please. And so our board of directors always asks that I end our presentations with this slide. It's some final thoughts from one of our National Tribal Emergency Management tribal elders. And so I read this to you. The true meaning of sovereignty is not to tell us what to do, but to provide us with the information needed to make informed decisions for ourselves and our people. Many of us come from small tribal nations. Many of us do not have emergency management or homeland security. We don't have the same funding, the experts, the training, or the resources that the federal, state, and counties have. But what we do have is thousands of years of experience surviving disasters. We have the ability to do great things. We can plan, prepare, learn, and share. We can all work together. We may need to seek out those who can help us, our fellow tribes, our federal, state, and local partners, many of you who are listening and viewing this presentation today. It will be through working together, building relationships, and sharing knowledge with each other that will make us stronger. And in the end, our investment today will help us to save more lives tomorrow. And so with that, here's our slide, and it shares a little bit of information, contact information on how to get a hold of us. Our chairman, Del Ostenberg, he lives on the Colville Indian Reservation in Eastern Washington. Again, my name is Linda. Richard Zambrano is our logistics manager. And then Richard Flores, who's listed there, is our director of legislative affairs and tribal relations. So many times when we attend National Congress of American Indians and we work directly with the tribal leaders, sometimes they'll want to set up meetings with certain senators, and Richard will help us put together white papers for those senator staff. And when our tribal leaders go back to DC to work the Hill, sometimes Richard will fly back to DC and he'll work the Hill with them hand by hand, side by side. And Richard used to be the tribal liaison for FEMA headquarters. And so we feel very fortunate to have him on board and working with us. So with that, I would be open to any questions that anybody has.
Thank you, Linda, so much for that. I appreciate it. Are there any questions?
Jay Martin here. Linda, yes, me and Josie have looked through your slides. We got familiar with your organization. We are very impressed with your organization, and we will be looking into your guys' resources for resources. Yes. We are interested in attending your conference. Our supervisor has already expressed verbal approval about us attending such things, and we will also be looking into what we can do about supporting any tribal EMs, tribal partners to attend this as well and cover their travel. That's just something on our list of things to be looking into. So any tribal partners listening, that's something that we can talk about later in further coordination discussions. But yes, thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. I see several hands are raised. Ms. Jake, do you want to start us off, please?
Sure, I just wanted to make a comment to Linda. It's great to see you guys up and going. And I remember when we first started that, and it's great to see you guys progress in such a good manner. So thank you.
Thank you. It was so good to see you on this call. It's been I was thinking about that earlier. It's probably been about 12 years since I saw you last. So it was really great to see you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Director Montu?
Thank you. I really appreciated that presentation. You really caught my attention when you were talking about the new approach to, I guess, formally credentialing our tribal citizens in emergency management. And I was wondering two things. Is there already a curriculum out there that you've implemented at a university that maybe some of the schools in Nevada might want to take a look at? And then maybe you can answer this, or maybe some of the other participants on today's call. What is the traditional academic route post-high school for someone who dives into emergency management? I've never heard of an emergency management degree, but I'm curious.
So there are many emergency management degrees that are available now today, but the piece that they're missing is the tribal component. And so we put together a advisory committee under FEMA 3 years ago, and we met in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And we sent out notifications to many colleges and universities, including all of our tribal colleges and universities, to see if anybody was providing tribal specific emergency management curriculum, and could not find a single one in the entire nation. And so from that meeting, there was about 20 of us that were on that committee, decided that we would start working with individual tribal nations and universities to get this curriculum written. We've now done 8 classes through the Centers of Excellence for Homeland Security at Pierce College, and we're working with the University of Alaska Fairbanks to create a degreed program. And so the curriculum is underway now, but our intention is to share it with all of our tribal colleges and universities, as well as any other colleges or universities that we partner with that are interested in utilizing that tribal specific curriculum. And the way that I've often explained it to people that are outside of our world and don't understand what the difference really is between tribal and non-tribal, but in the tribal world, as an emergency manager, we not only have the responsibility of responding to a disaster and working at the local level, and also working with our state partners, but through our federal government to government relationship, we have a responsibility to work with our federal partners. And so very rarely will I see a county working with the Indian Health Service or with the Bureau of Indian Affairs or with the Bureau of Land Management. But many times our tribal nations are working with those partners when we're faced with large-scale disasters like our wildland fires in eastern Washington that encroached upon the Colville Reservation. We had all of those agencies involved in that response. And so there is a large component of tribal emergency management that's very specific to the tribes, but nobody's capturing that in curriculum. That's what our hope is to do, is to help all of our local, state, and federal partners understand our jurisdictional issues, how we differ when it comes to isolation and quarantine, and how we view our critical infrastructure. There's a number of different areas where we need to incorporate some of that into our emergency management curriculum. And then of course, we're addressing storytelling and language, because we want to make sure that if our Yupik people, if Yupik is their primary language, we're providing some of these training documents in Yupik. And the first round, I'm so proud of our communications team, because the first round of CDs, training CDs that will go out, will be in the Yupik language for the Alaska youth. So I'm excited about that. Thank you for that question.
Thank you so much. And Crystal, I apologize, I missed your hand, but please go ahead and ask your question, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Harriet. First off, to answer Stacy's question, there are a couple of colleges here in Nevada that do offer emergency management degrees. One is UNLV. They actually offer up to a master's degree in emergency management or an emergency management component. And TMCC offers a bachelor's in emergency management. So there are schools in Nevada that do have those. I myself graduated from Grand Canyon University with a bachelor's in emergency management and public safety. So they do have them. They're really hard to find online, but they're being offered more and more. But just to answer that question, my question to Linda is, I used to work at the Intertribal Emergency Response Commission under the Intertribal Council of Nevada. We actually were interested in joining your organization a long time ago. However, we couldn't, because according to the Northwest Tribal Emergency Management Council, is you had to opt in via tribal resolution. Does that still stand? Because that's how it was a long time ago, and that's kind of what stopped us from joining your organization.
Yeah, so the individual tribal nations that appoint delegates to the council, and those that are going to be voting members or are going to be running for the board of directors, we do require the resolutions. But that was a good 10, 12 years ago. Since then, and since we went national, what we've done is we've maintained the autonomy of the different groups. And so, for example, the Montana Indian Nation Working Group is their consortium that's very similar to what you're doing in Nevada. And what the Montana Indian Nation Working Group did was just passed a resolution as their tribal group and just did more of a MOU with the National Tribal, so that now NWTMC is a chapter of the National Tribal, Montana is a chapter, the Alaska is a chapter. And so we have all of these chapters that maintain their autonomy. They're going to keep doing all of the work that they're doing internally, but we're creating a forum where we can all come together on a national level and we can talk about the projects, the programs, the grant funding, share resources, share skill sets, share knowledge, and make each other more aware of what's available for our tribal emergency managers across the country. And so the focus has changed a little than what it was 12 years ago, but we're finding that this forum at the national level is working very well for our partners. And so that's where we still want the board of directors to have those resolutions. It's important because their tribal governments need to know that they're there as the delegates and representing the group. But again, as far as our sharing the work, we want to make sure that it gets shared with everybody across the country.
Okay, great, awesome. Thank you for that. And just a little side note, I am really glad that Richard is still with you guys because he is awesome. Any tribes that want to work with him, he's great. Known him for a long time, so I'm really glad that he's still with you guys. Thanks.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, he is fun to work with, that's for sure.
He is.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for Linda before we move on? So I do have to say that I have been to a couple of the conferences. As Linda mentioned, I was there with Lieutenant Dawkins, who's a little camera shy, but he's been here the whole time. We did go to Green Bay. We also went to the one in Lemoore, California. He's been to a lot more than I have. He gets paid the big bucks, so he gets to go. So anyway, if there are no other questions, I think we'll close out agenda item number 13 and move on to agenda item number 14. So this is updates from the Nevada Division of Emergency Management, Homeland Security. This is for discussion only. Chief Fogerson will provide the NTECC with updates on the following: staff changes at DEMHS and organizational changes at DEMHS. Chief, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve Fogerson for the record. So the staffing changes we have here at the division, we now have Jared Franco, who you'll hear from in just a minute on the next agenda item, I believe, is our new Chief Financial Officer and also over grants. And then we have Suze Coyote, who most of you will remember from being our recovery supervisor, is now our grants manager, and she reports directly to Jared. And then starting in a week and a half, since this morning in another meeting, I kept saying Monday, but it's the following Monday, we will have our new preparedness manager, Michael Xavier, starting. So we'll have all of our senior leaders positions filled here on the 28th, so that we can keep moving forward. And that is a pretty nice thing to come up with. And then for organizational changes, that we did divvy up the department into two sides, or the division up into two sides. We have the operations side, John Backendall is in charge of as the deputy administrator, and then the finance and grant side is run by Jared. So that way you can know who to talk to, and everyone was down there at NEPA at the preparedness summit, so we meet with everyone. And as we get out, we'll make sure that everybody gets to meet and see all of our new faces, and maybe host an open house or something to encourage people to come by. We're always welcoming people to come visit with us, so that way you can see who's running the grant program, who's running the exercises, and we can build more of that partnership together. In the report, ready for any questions, ma'am?
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, let's close out agenda item number 14 and move on to agenda item number 15, review of the emergency management and homeland security priorities. This is for discussion only. Co-chair David Fogerson. The NTECC will be briefed on the strategic capabilities to maintain the goals of the emergency management and homeland security for the state of Nevada as approved by the Homeland Security Commission. Chief, you have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you, ma'am. Dave Fogerson for the record. If you recall, in years past, the Homeland Security Commission, and it started in 2017, started with strategic priorities to be maintained. And those priorities really weren't priorities. They were really programs. They were fusion centers. They were the tribal NIMS. They were things along those lines. And so this year, we partnered with where FEMA is trying to get us to go to start looking at a longer term philosophy and how to buy down our risks. And so rather than having strategic priorities to be maintained, we did a strategic plan type document that it's only 4 pages long, so it's not too big, but it has our priorities for the next 3 years. And we call those strategic programs or strategic priorities that used to be maintained. We now call them strategic programs to be maintained. And we have goals and objectives within that document. And really at the first brush, the first time going through it, as we extend the use of that document, and we'll get it cleaner and better and make it more user friendly. But right now, that is going to be our priority. So if you're looking for any Homeland Security grants, if you're looking for any de-obligated money to get from us, if you're looking for where we're headed with emergency management performance grants, that's all those priorities are going to be in that document. So that way we focus on what we need to focus on and not keep chasing different things. We also put in there the priorities from the other agencies because the Homeland Security Commission, NTECC, NRAC, and the funding committee does not control all the money we use in the state for Homeland Security. So we included stuff in the State Emergency Response Commission, the $50,000 that they give people that apply. We included the public health preparedness priorities that is given to state health, public health preparedness, and then the 3 local health authorities. So everybody can see where we're actually spending our money in Nevada, and they can start looking to see where the goals are. So when you have projects, you can look to see who's got what goal, and that might help you figure out where to start seeking funding from. And if we will be posting on our website here shortly, we're updating some of our website, and I'm asking our PIO to make, right now we got a really nice page for the Homeland Security Commission, but I'm asked them to make a nice page for this committee and a nice page for NRAC, and we'll make sure that that document gets posted on them so everyone can see them. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for Chief? Okay, hearing none, let's close out agenda item number 15 and move on to agenda item number 16. This is the Homeland Security Grant Program. Reports for federal fiscal years 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. This is for discussion only. Jared Franco. The NTECC will be presented with reports from DEM-HS as to the status of subgrants awarded up to December 31st, 2021 that were awarded under federal fiscal years 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. Mr. Franco, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everybody. For the record, I'm Jared Franco. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, as Dave was saying. I believe you have all been provided a list of the 2017 through 2020 grants. This list is comprised of SHSP and UASC grants, which make up the Homeland Security Grant Program, HSGP. Important dates to remember and to write down for the federal fiscal year 17 HSGP grants. The drop dead date to spend the money is May 31st of this year. And for the federal fiscal year 18 HSGP grants, the drop dead date to spend the money is on 8/31 of 22. I believe the list is pretty self-explanatory, so I'll go ahead and take any questions at this time.
Can I get a copy of that?
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions before we move on?
Madam Chair, Dave Fogerson. So that way everybody knows what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that everyone sees all the different grants that are available and out there and what other people are using them for. And I'm trying to share them across. Some of this is repetitive between NRAC, the Homeland Security Commission, and NTECC. I want to make sure that everybody that comes to, because we have some parties that come to all those meetings, we have some parties that come to individual meetings. I want to make sure we share this information and daylight it so that way people know what's out there and what's available, and no one gets missed in the process. And we're all working together towards making us more resilient, whether we're a tribal nation, we're a state, we're a country, however we need to do it, whether we're a city, you know, trying to make sure that we become more resilient tomorrow, better than we are today.
And Jared Franco, for the record, just to add on to what Chief said, if anyone has any questions or concerns or fears of trying to go through with the grant process, please reach out. My staff is more than willing to help out and assist you with the application process or answer any questions you may have. So please don't let anything get in your way if you're interested in applying for these grants, if you haven't already.
We have the best grant staff around. There's no better grant staff in Nevada.
Absolutely.
I agree so much. Okay, so let's close out agenda item number 16 and move on to agenda item number. Yes.
Crystal has a question.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry I missed that. Crystal.
No problem, Harriet. Not sure if this should land under this specific agenda item. Sam cut me off if it isn't. So in speaking with John Bakadal and the NTECC staff last week, NTECC does have a significant amount to spend down out of their Homeland Security grant. So he had asked that we present a question to the board asking what would you like to do with this money, because we are nearing the end of this year's grant period and running out of options of what to buy or spend it on. So anyone from the board, if you have any ideas, one idea that we did have was purchasing the Binex Now test kits. Obviously, COVID has calmed down quite a bit since then. He wanted to know if that was still an option for the tribes, if they do want to purchase some of those or not. We just need, NTECC needs some feedback from the tribes on what they want to spend this money down. The state and NTECC do not want to give this money back because there's no guarantee that we're going to get it the next funding cycle. So any input, whether it's now or in an email to the NTECC staff, please let them know as soon as possible so they can move forward with spending down that money.
Great point, Crystal. Thank you. And let's make sure we take that offline since this wasn't agendized like that. But if anybody has any ideas, please make sure you reach out to the NTECC staff, because as Crystal said, we don't want to return a dime of this money to the federal government. We want to make sure we spend it to make us better. So please reach out to Jay and Josie and let them know what you think of your needs. You know, that 17 money, like Jared said, has to be spent very quickly. So there's short turn on that one. But the 18 money that we're trying to spend has got till August to do some stuff with. So it gives us an opportunity. So please reach out to NTECC staff, and then they can work with grant staff and help get your project hopefully moving along. Make sure it fits within the priorities that we have in the strategic priorities, or find a way that it meets those strategic priorities in your creative thought processes.
For that, Mr. Rivera, I see your hand up.
Yes, I'm just curious, how does the tribe be eligible to spend them Homeland Security monies?
Jared Franco for the record. Mr. Rivera, to be eligible, you just have to apply for the next upcoming grant period. Basically bring a project, an idea to the table that you would want to be funded. Fill out the application. My grant staff will look it over. FEMA will approve it, and you'll receive approval to start on your project. It is a reimbursement basis, so you would have to front the money, and then once the project is completed and you provide the necessary documentation, we will reimburse those funds. We could definitely talk about this offline in more detail. I'll have Jake shoot you my information so we can do that.
And the really easy way to do it, Ross, is if you got a project that can fit into what NTECC's scope of work is, and then we can do it for you. So that way you don't have to manage it at the tribal level, but the NTECC staff manages it for you. Obviously, those bigger grants, if you're looking for the true big stuff, that would be on your own. But any of the smaller stuff that's within their scope of work, if you can find a project that fits into that, we're more than willing to partner and help.
Okay, where do I find that information at?
It's in the objectives that you have to look at is in your packet. Those strategic objectives, and then contact Jay or Josie, and they will push you along the route. And Homeland Security, the de-obligated funds will probably be pushing out email next week to start talking about options for that. For the true next cycle, that grant opportunity hasn't been dropped yet. So, but contact Jay or Josie and let them know what you're looking for, and we can circle around and figure out how to make that work.
Is that on your website?
It should be in your meeting packet.
Oh, in my meeting packet. Okay.
Yeah, it's in your
So
meeting
I
packet.
must have overlooked it. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. Lieutenant Dawkins and I were just having a discussion. So I just want to make sure that we have this correct. So we submit an application, it gets approved, then we do the project where we pay for it, and then we submit to get reimbursed. Is that correct?
So there's two ways to do it. Two ways to do it, Harriet. One is if it falls within the scope of work, what NTECC can do and what we can do for you through the state, that's the easiest way to do it. Because if you need to get something that we're looking for with all the tribes or with some money that we've had set aside, we can take care of it for you. If you're looking for a new project, that'd be once we send out the notice of funding opportunity, which should come out here within the next 30 to 60 days, then you'd have to apply for that. You'd fill out the application. You have to go to the NRAC commission and submit why you want it, and that commission reviews it and ranks the project with every other project that comes in. Then it goes to Homeland Security Funding Committee to be approved, and then it goes to Homeland Security Commission for a recommendation for approval. So yes.
Perfect. That sounds good. Thank you so much for the clarification on that. I appreciate it. Were there any other questions? Okay, let's see. So let's close out. That was agenda item number 16. Let's move on to agenda item number 17. This is the 2021 Threat and Hazard Identification and Risk Assessment, which is the THIRA, and the State Preparedness Report, the SPR. This is for discussion only. Co-Chair Chief David Fogerson. The NTECC will hear a report on the findings of the 2021 THIRA and SPR, identifying preparedness gaps that may drive the selection of strategic capabilities to be maintained for the federal fiscal year 2022 Homeland Security grant program. Chief, you have the floor.
Thank you, ma'am. Dave Fogerson. And John Backendall was supposed to present this because we bantered back and forth on whether we'd actually talked at this group about the results of the THIRA. And so we decided just to kind of hit it again with everyone to make sure everyone's on the same page, knows where we're going. So the THIRA, the Threat Hazard Identification and Risk Assessment, is a process that we did last year, and we did 3 different regional groups. We did one in the north, one in the east, and one in the south, and had a really good participation in it. And then we reached out to tribal partners to get it there too. This coming year, what we're hoping to do is maybe a week in each region and invite everyone there. So that way we can have all the partners sitting in the room talking to each other. And it won't be a week where you have to attend every day. We're gonna break it down. There'll be a mitigation day where you can talk about mitigation projects. There'll be 2 days where we do the THIRA. There'll be a day when we do the TEPW or the new IPP. And please don't ask me what either one of those abbreviations mean, but they're related to the training and exercise plan. But I can't remember the new name for the IPP. I think it's Integrated Preparedness Plan. So from the ones we had in the past, what FEMA is now requiring the state to do is we have to pick 3 to 5 problems to fix every year. And so in 2019, Styra, we picked that we need to work on housing, energy, and the logistics chain supply. In 2020, we picked housing, the logistics chain supply, and resilient communications. And in 2021, we picked fatality management, health and social services, and consequence management from cyber. Somehow we were a little foreboded with our thought that we'd have to work on some cyber consequence management stuff. And then as soon as FEMA approves our plan, then we have this issue that we're dealing with today. So these are all, each of each year priorities are located within our strategic plan, the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Enterprise Strategic document that we talked about earlier. Because the EMPGs last for 3 years, just like the Homeland Security. So we have 3 years to work on these 3 goals, each one of them. Moving forward, what we're going to require the local jurisdictions, and this would include our tribal nations that do receive the EMPG funding from us, you have to pick one of the state criteria and work on buying down that risk in your area. That's why we picked 3 at the state level. Instead of picking just 1 to work on, we picked 3, so that way our local government partners, our county partners, and our tribal governments can all pick one that fits their needs, and then they have to use some of their emergency management performance grant money to work on that. So this has been a work in progress through FEMA. When they first pushed this out to us in 2019, they didn't tell us what to do. They just said we had to do something, and they didn't want us to just say that we're spending money on salaries anymore, but didn't provide us any more data. And it wasn't until probably November 2020 that we finally got the 2019 plan approved, because we finally understood what they're looking for. And so since then, we've done the 2020 plan, the 2021 plan, and have the staff, between the grant staff and our planning staff, knocked it out of the park to get those documents done right. And so moving forward, for the tribes that do get the MPG, you have to pick one of those 3 goals for the year of what you want to work on. But we're going to help you with that, because we're not going to do the same thing that how we had to learn by tap dancing on ice and figuring it all out by ourselves. We're going to be here to help you work through that. And that's what the NTECC staff's for. That's what our planning staff's for. That's what our grant staff is for. So moving forward, hopefully we'll be out to see you guys for a week at a time, and we get all the regional partners together. And then moving forward, we'll also be looking for you to start taking on some of these risks to buy down, because we don't want to just buy stuff. We want to actually make Nevada more resilient for our future. Thank you, ma'am. Any questions?
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for Chief Fogerson? Okay, hearing none, we will close out agenda item number 17, and we'll move on to agenda item number 18. This is the Nevada Public Bodies updates. This is for discussion only. Tribal representatives appointed to the following Nevada public bodies may provide an update on their role with each public body, as well as the initiatives and projects that impact Nevada tribes. So for the first one, we have the Nevada Resilience Advisory Committee, and that's co-chair Chief Fogerson. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, ma'am. Dave Fogerson with the record. And actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to take A, B, and C, all 3 together at once. NRAC, the Commission on Homeland Security, and the Commission on Homeland Security Finance Committee, because it's all the same, so I can sum it up at once. And the big part that we did in these bodies was we reviewed and approved those emergency management, Homeland Security, enterprise priorities moving forward. Can't even read my notes now. And we took, in this meeting, it is running a little long, because what I wanted to do is to make sure that we talked about everything we did with those other groups with you guys, so we can find the tribal nexus and where we need to get better at each one of these. Because when we talk about the updates from DEM or the review of the emergency management Homeland Security priorities with the city of Las Vegas, it has a different texture to it than it does when we have it here at NTECC. And so the other items off those agendas are all here represented in our agenda today that we've had some great discussions on for NTECC staff to take back to see how we start doing this moving forward and helping our tribal partners better. End of report, ma'am.
Well, that was fast. I thought it was going to be a few more minutes. Okay, so you did A, B, and C. So let's move on to the Nevada State Emergency Response Commission, and that is with Lance Chandler. Is he on the call? I don't remember if I saw him or not. Lance, are you there? Okay, let's move on to the Nevada Interstate Mutual Aid Committee, and that's Eric Wilson.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eric Wilson, and I'm the logistics chief here at DEM, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the Nevada Interstate Mutual Aid System, or otherwise known as NRS 414A. It was created in 2015 under the auspices of the division to coordinate the provision of mutual aid during the response to and recovery from an emergency or disaster, maintain records of the requests for and provision of mutual aid throughout the state, identify, maintain, and inventory of, coordinate, participate, personnel and equipment available for interstate mutual aid response, provide information and assistance upon request to participants concerning reimbursement for services and other guidelines and procedures developed by the Interstate Mutual Aid Committee pursuant to subsection 4, and adopt regulations relating to the administration of the system. So what does that mean? It basically is a mutual aid system in which the political subdivisions within the state agree to share resources during emergencies in accordance with the system provisions. The system does not require you to give up control of your resources. Basically, participating jurisdictions will send an inventory to DEM of the resources that you have available, and then we will put it into an inventory system in our web EOC system. That doesn't mean you lose control of your resource. It just means that it's available for possible selection during an emergency, but it's still up to you to release that resource so you don't lose control of it. Another advantage is that there's standardized reimbursement and billing forms and also standardized procedures and policies. So because of these standardized reimbursement forms and billing forms and policies, it should speed up the process of getting reimbursed and reduce any errors or mistakes in there. So that's an advantage as well. Any federally recognized tribe or nation within the state of Nevada can join by adopting a resolution declaring they intend to participate in the system and agree to be bound by its provisions, and then provide a copy to DEM, and we'll provide one to the governor as well. I have a sample resolution that I can send out to anybody if they're interested. Also running it is congruent with the Nevada Interstate Mutual Aid System. The Interstate Mutual Aid Committee is also created. And the Interstate Mutual Aid Committee is not more than 19 members that serve 2-year terms. And their job is to advise the chief on emergency management and the interstate mutual aid system. Right now, we're full up on members, but if you're interested in joining in the future, please let me know. That's basically it for the interstate mutual aid system. I included the bylaws, the policies, procedures, and a copy of the NRS 414A in the meeting packet. If you have any questions right now, please let me know. If not, we can always contact me offline and I'll be happy to discuss this in more depth.
Madam Chair, Dave Fulgerson, one item of point here. This is the report from the Nevada Interstate Mutual Aid Committee, so we cannot talk about the event he was discussing. This was just a report that we had a meeting about it, and that anybody who wants more details can contact Eric offline.
For that clarification. Are there any questions from anyone regarding agenda item 18? Okay, let's close out agenda item 18 and move on to agenda item number 19. Discussion of potential legislative requests for the 2023 session. This is for discussion only. Co-chair Dave Fulgerson. The NTECC will be briefed on any forecasted legislative changes for the 2023 session related to the emergency management and homeland security. Chief Fulgerson, I will turn it over to you, sir.
Thanks, ma'am. Dave Fulgerson for the record. I just want to start getting this out there because legislative session is going to come up sooner rather than later. So as you start seeing items that you'd like to be considered for a NRS change, please make sure you relay that back to NTECC staff or to myself. We have an internal working group looking at the NRSs to see if there's anything we need to change for next session. So we're always looking for ideas on how we make tomorrow better than today. So anything you find that makes tribal relations and emergency management, homeland security work better, please feel free to let us know. So that way we can evaluate that and see if that's something that we need to take on or are allowed to take on. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions for Chief Fogerson regarding agenda item number 19? Okay, hearing none, let's close that agenda item out and move on to agenda item number 20. This is public comment. This is for discussion only. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Public comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person at the discretion of the chair. Comments will not be restricted based on viewpoint. To provide testimony during this period of public comment via telephone, please call in at any time after 12:30. The number is provided on our agenda, and when prompted to provide the meeting ID, the number is also listed. I know that there's a delay, so let's just give it a few seconds and see if we have any public comment on the line or through the YouTube.
Madam Chair, Dave Fogerson, I do have one other public comment.
Yes, sir, please.
We do also, I failed to mention earlier, is that there is a Homeland Security grant program specifically for tribes. So you can go directly to FEMA with that process rather than having to go through the state as well. And as that NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity, comes out, we'll make sure that that details also for those tribal nations that desire to go through FEMA rather than through the state. It just gives you another option for how you want to get it done. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So I don't believe there are any public comments through our YouTube stream or on the phone, unless did anyone at NTECC receive anything beforehand? Looks like not. Are there any public comments for those that are on the Zoom call? All right, hearing none, we will close out agenda item number 20 and we will move on to my favorite, agenda item number 21, which is adjournment. This is for discussion, possible action. Is there a motion for adjournment, please?
Ross Rivera, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone that will second?
Mr. Wayne. Go ahead, Bruce.
Was that Mr. Masters?
Yeah,
And you're gonna second for us?
of course.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? I think this motion carries. And thank you guys for everything. I really appreciate it. And I believe our next meeting is in June. So they'll send out some information on that. I think that's all we have for today. Thank you again. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time, if not before.